Welcome everyone, and welcome back to Ford Operating Base Lake Fork. I am Greg Hill. I'm your host of your fishing show again tonight. You know, I try to get these done during the day, but I'm fishing with clients. I try to spend all as much time as I can with them, and then I try to get some food, and then it gets kind of late, and then but I've got to get this done. So I really want to share the information I got about Lake Fork for this last week. It's a great time to be fishing on Lake Fork. This is a report ending for March 26th. You know, the water temperatures have stabilized. They're constantly warming. You know, I was in water today that was 65 degrees. Even on the coldest water I saw today on the main lake was 59. So the water temperatures are really starting to stabilize in that strong spawning temperature for the lake. It obviously is a little warmer up north in some of the muddier water. And then down south it's a little cooler. But going back into a lot of the coves, there are spawning temperatures, and I can assure you that there are fish on bed on Lake Fork right now. So I'm going to get into what's going on with the week, but let me talk about the water levels. So the Lake Fork water levels are staying they're actually rising just slightly right now. You know, we had a pretty good rainstorm the other night. We had a bunch of hail and had a rainstorm. The water's come in. I'll tell you a little bit later how that affected the water quality in a couple places. But you know, and overall, the lake is in a very good fishing condition right now. It's a great time to come out here. It's going to be very busy out here this week. You have the Mega Bass. You have another 2-day tournament out of Axon's Marina. So there's going to be a lot of boats out here on the water. And if you're coming out recreationally, you're going to be competing against all those boats. Hey, you know, the more the merrier, I say. It's a public lake, so come on out. But just realize there will be a lot of boats out here on the lake this weekend. So let me just hop into the fishing for the week. It was a pretty good fishing week. More numbers than big fish, though, for me. And I'll talk about how we caught the numbers of fish. But I fished everywhere from the northwest part of the lake to the northeast part of the lake to the main lake down south, and a lot of the fingers on the west and the fingers on the east. So, you know, I fished a lot of the lake in this last week, and got a chance to see a lot of different water colors and conditions. And you know, my take on right now for me is that I'm still bed fishing right now. So we went out today and we bed fished for about 85% of the day, and we went to a couple spots. We went to a spot first thing this morning that was in the muddy water that I just caught fish on yesterday, and we did not get a bite on it today. I'm sure the fish are still there. You just have to work slow, and I'll talk about that, of how you work slow in this you know, really turbid, kind of muddy spawning water. The fish are there and they're spawning, but you just can't see them. So I think that's driving a lot of the action for the lake, you know, for a lot of the anglers down here to the mid lake and down to the south part of the lake. So it's probably going to get even you know, more crowded. So I didn't do much point fishing. Main lake in the morning fishing. I was actually starting my fishing a little bit later in the day, knowing that I wanted to get the most with my clients for some of the you know, bed fishing, so you know, visual fishing. And we had good luck for most of those days. Even on the days where it was windy, I was able to pick into some coves that, you know, were out of the wind, and we still found bedding fish. So and I'll talk about the numbers of the fish I caught. But number one, the lake, again, is in great shape. It's a great time to come out here to Lake Fork. So if you're planning on coming out, please feel free to contact me for a guide trip. I've got days open in April that I'll be posting, and in May. And basically, you know, it's a great time to come out. I'm catching a lot of fish night fishing right now still. You know, I went out just the other night. I caught 15 fish in about an hour and a half. I had to fight my way through the white bass to catch those bass. I had another like 12 to 13 white bass probably on top of that within that little given time period, you know, maybe 2 hours at the most. So the fish have definitely moved into the coves. The bait fish has definitely moved in. The night fishing is pretty good. You know, remember, this is a pretty dangerous lake to run around on. If you haven't run around it at nighttime, please be extremely careful. I never go anywhere without a you know, a big torch light, you know, a big Q-beam, because you know, sometimes these buoys aren't exactly where they say on your GPS if you got the map chart. So just be cognizant of the fact that those buoys are moved around a little bit. So you need to make sure to have a good light out there to shine around and see those buoys. And please be careful. Okay, so let me get into the fishing. So I fished mostly shallow water for this last week. You know, I was focusing on the 4 to 8 foot range, trying to catch females, and then of course, you know, we went looking for bedfish, and I found bedfish. I've only had 2 places now, actually 3, where I found pairs of fish, you know, up on the beds. Up until now, it's been just buck males, except for a couple days ago. Very well up in the north part of the lake, I found a pair up there, and you know, sitting there doing the thing that they like to do during the spring, and I was able to catch both of them actually when we did that. The fishing right now is most of the spawning fish I'm catching they're brand new on bed. Matter of fact, you know, I think some of them get caught and they're moving off the beds, and another male was coming in. I actually fished a bed today that I mean, I caught a fish on the other day. I went there back again because we were in the same cove, and there was a different fish on it. It was not the same fish on the same bed. So these males are trading homes. If they get caught, they might move off it and pick another, you know, kind of pick another place and move up on it. But they're all fresh, and they don't have any blood on their tails. So it's just beginning, which kind of goes with the moon cycles that's going on right now. And you know, for the next month, it should be really good. It's just really getting started. And I mean, I think some have already spawned up north in some places for sure. But for the majority of the lake, it's still just in the beginning stages of the spawn out here. So what am I fishing for the spawn beds, and you know, what am I doing? Look, I talked about it before. Again, look, you know, look, all I use are Temple Fork Outfitter rods and Quantum reels. I'm throwing the Quantum Smoke S3 reels. And this is a little creature bait. Like I said, you can find one that looks like it. Again, I'm not sponsored by them, so I'm not going to say exactly what brand it is, but you'll see. It's a little creature bait. You know, it kind of looks like it's got some, you know, some crawfish tails on there, and it can look like a frog coming across the water. It can look like a bluegill when it's sideways. It's a very versatile bait, and I use it as a search bait, and I use it to work in the grass, and I use it to work in the beds. It's one of my favorite baits for the spawn, hands down. And any of my clients that go fishing with me, they get to see exactly what it is, but you know, because I can't hide, I don't hide what it is from them. But if you want to come find out exactly what it is, schedule a trip and come with me. That bait is my first bait I pretty much throw into a bed. And I start judging on what type of behavior the fish is having. And I also blind cast that also in a place where I can't see it. But when I can see the fish and I'm looking at the mood of the fish, and I can pretty much tell right away. And again, this people just my client of the day, he had never bedfished before, and he said he learned so much about it. You know, what is the mood of the fish? Is it aggressive? Is it neutral? Is it spooky? You know, one of those three. You know, what does that mean for the baits I need to throw in there? Like I throw in that creature bait first, and I start working it, and I kind of judge it. Then I have just a white, like, you know, kind of like a pocket crawl, any kind of white crawfish, you know, type baits that have the, you know, the big flippers on them, you know, something that can be seen easy in the muddier water. I try that and kind of see what's going on. Maybe they don't want the creature bait, they want that. And then I go to a jig, and again, this is different, but I won't talk about exactly what I do, but because, you know, again, you come out and fish me and you'll figure it out. But I throw a big jig in there, and I'm just throwing, this one is just one of them. It's a black and blue, kind of a purple trailer on it. It's a football head jig, and I work it in the beds. I believe in throwing the big jigs in the beds instead of these small things. I tend not to go with finesse baits inside these beds. I go with bigger baits. I want to make them feel they're threatened. I want to make sure that they, you know, realize that they're a bass, and whatever's messing with them should, you know, respect them in the way that a bass should be respected by a little creature. So I kind of remind them of that sometimes, and when I'm fishing, and then, you know, I just, you know, they get mad, they get aggravated, and even if they're not in the mood to bite, they'll bite. We had a fish today that we spent, my client, you know, he was working on his pitching, working on his flipping, working on the technique I was showing him. And, you know, he was getting tired, and he basically, he's over and over again, great, we go. I was like, no, I said, we're going to catch this fish. I mean, so kept with more times, tip it in there, did what he said, boom, and caught the fish. It was a great fish. So you know, basically a creature bait, a white kind of pocket crawl type bait, whatever it is, a jig. You can go with the black and blues or the purples. You can go with a more crawfish color in the clear water. That's what I would kind of recommend. Most of the water right now is kind of stained, so I've been throwing the darker jig in it to they can see it better. If I finally get done spawning in some of the really clear water, then I'll probably throw a crawfish. I mean, like a bluegill colored or a real crawfish, like a pumpkin seed type jig in there. And again, it'd be another big 1 ounce, jig that I'm throwing in there. But I put them in there, and I'm shirking and working. I'm, shaking the handle, and look, all those things. If you do these things and work through your baits, I tried just an example. We had a fish. It was being finicky. I tried to throw a drop shot in there. I drew, like a floating worm in there. Nothing got that fish to bite. So I went and used this other technique I use, and sure enough, we got the fish to bite. So it's something I've been working on for a couple of years, and I like it. Anybody goes fishing, they see it and they don't really believe what's going on. I don't think, honestly. I've had people tell me, Greg, that's not going to work, and sure enough, it'll end up working. So anyway, so look, if you're out here fishing the mega bass or the other tournaments weekend, look, number one, there's gonna be a lot of boats out there. Let's share the water. Let's be friendly to each other. I know it gets crowded out there. I know everybody thinks they have their favorite spot or it's their spot, but look, it's a lake. I go out there guide fishing. There's other people's when I pull up at some of the places I fish a lot. That's okay, and I expect the same thing when I pull up. If you be respectful of people, there should be no problem out there on the water. So let's keep it friendly. Let's keep the bass fishing friendly out there, but competitive, right? But if you're fishing a tournament out there, what would I be doing to catch big fish? Look, I mean, there are definitely females getting on bed. So, I mean, do you swing for the fences and you go for bed fish? Do you fish for some pre-spawn fish? No, I didn't talk about, I should go back and I'll go talk a little bit. So I've got the crankbait that I've been throwing, again. So this is just a flat-sided crankbait. It's in a golden shad color. That one's running 9 feet. So I tend to keep that on. I keep a jerk bait on that runs in the 4 to 6 foot range. And I keep this chatterbait, of course, any kind of bladed jig. And some people throw the jackhammer. This is a stealth blade, so I mean, you can throw what you want. There's a definite difference between the jackhammer and the stealth blade. They have a completely different vibration to them. So when you check those out, make sure. I think the jackhammer is probably better in some stained water. While the stealth does exactly what it's supposed to do, which is supposed to be better like a finesse blade. It's supposed to be for clearer water. That's exactly what it seems to be working for me. So, but get back on the Mega Bass tournament. So what could you do to be catching? Like, you're either going to be catching your overs right or your unders. If you want to focus on the unders, one of the techniques that here is on this lake that never really does go bad is throwing like Senkos. Like, I wouldn't be throwing a big 6-inch Senko. I would be throwing the smaller Senkos, trying to catch the smaller fish. I would be throwing a drop shot. Senko colors, look, I throw the pumpkin seed colors. Also, you have like Texas Smoke, colors. There's a couple of brands of those you can throw out there. You just throw it way over the grass and work it back to the grass. Again, this creature bait I throw almost works like a frog. I throw it back way over the grass, and I hop it through the grass, and then I drag it across the grass, and I kill it, when it comes off the grass. So it's kind of I'm doing everything with that thing. And I had a client that last week, he just got hammered by a big fish using it. It ended up shaking out. It got off, after he fought it for a second. But it got hammered using that bait. So I think it's a great bait. So, but drop shots, Senko type, baits, stick baits, throw them back in the grass. You can never go wrong in some places, I think, with like the itsy bitsy jig too. So the lighter jigs, throwing around grass. You throw the lighter jigs in there because look, they'll come over the grass and just kind of sit on it. They won't dig into it, so that you can kind of hop it through the grass. That's another way. The week before I was catching a lot of fish on wacky rigged Senkos. Nail in one end of it so it kind of falls straight down. I didn't do punch of it this week because I focused on doing some other fishing, and so I wasn't using it. But we were doing pretty well with it when I was throwing that rig, and you know it's I think it's a performer. So you try the wacky rig out a little bit. If you're going to go fish out the main lake points, look, there's still fish out here in these main lake areas. In the nighttime right now, you know, I fish at nighttime. There's a lot of bait fish been moving in at night. There's a lot of bait fish on these points at night because I've been out on them watching it and I've been fishing it. In the coves, there's a lot of bait fish. So when your first thing starting in the morning, look, you know, those little feeding shallow areas that are maybe on the secondary points, I think they'd be pretty good. I was back in one of the coves today. There was a secondary point. There was just bait fish all over. There was fish all over the place at this place. And we only caught one fish there, and it was getting towards the end of the day. We just ran out of time. But I think we had more time to spend there. We would be able to have caught a couple more fish there. And there were some big ones hanging around there. There's schools of gizzard shad running around back in the coves now. So there's just a lot of bait back in the coves. There's a lot of feeding going on. And if you're looking for an over, I mean, look, you know, you can go out on some of the winnie points. You can throw crankbaits. You could throw some chatterbaits, you know, you throw a big white chatterbait. You know, there's a 13-pounder caught on just a white chatterbait here in the lake, and you know, you can't go wrong with chatterbait. I mean, it simulates a big gizzard shad. You put the right trailer on it, throw it down in 6 to 8 feet of water, the max maybe 10, I think, and then, you know, work it back. I mean, you can throw those up shallow, you can throw them deep, you know, the 3/8 ounce, the half ounce will work a little deeper, but you know, I would get in one of these guts that you know they're spawning on, and I would throw that thing as long as I could way down through that gut, right down that ditch that goes up into the spawning area, and just keep bringing it, and keep bringing it through there, and bringing it through there. You know, look, people have been catching some on some main lake glide baits type stuff, some main lake swim baits. I've got a big swim bait, like a shad looking swim bait I've thrown. I was catching them. I caught a couple on it, but I haven't been throwing as much because I've just been throwing more jerk baits and crankbaits out on the main lake points instead of and chatterbaits instead of the big swim baits. But you know, it's another technique that people are using and catching fish on. So there's going to be all kinds of fish caught for this tournament. I think this tournament is pretty much like right at a key time to get this, watch this tournament happen. I think there's going to be some big fish caught. I think there's going to be, you know, it's my, you know, about a crystal ball, there's going to be some big fish caught, and there's going to be a lot of happy fishermen out there. But there's also going to be those guys that have all the stories like we had just today. You know, I had a client hook into a really big one today. He got pretty excited. You know, he's got a stiff rod, braided line, you know, it's on a big, you know, hook set, and, you know, he's trying to lift over a 5-pound bass out of the water, and it, you know, kind of got back down in and got off. So, you know, don't get too excited when you catch a big fish. Remember, take a breath, realize you got a good fish on, and just play that fish back to the boat. You know, get them away from the trees and stumps, but you can get them out here in that clear water then, you know, let it tire out a little bit. Don't try to horse in a big fish in, because most likely that hook is going to come out in some way. You know, it's going to get the weight down on it, it's going to pull it out of that mouth, and then you're really going to be sad for the rest of the day. So anyway, so water temperatures are, like I said, are between 65 and 59 is what I'm seeing. Water levels are just right, kind of rising a little bit, so it's going to be great, I think, for this weekend. The weather's supposed to be good, so look, it's supposed to be a great week of fishing. So it's been a great week of fishing for me. Like I said, more numbers than big fish. You know, I mean, you go out there looking for the big fish, and I think I only caught one female this whole week, maybe two. And but the others were males. They were large males, you know, like 4.5, 5-pound males. But that's it. Couldn't really just find the female fish this week. So I'll just keep trying. I'll keep trying this next week. I'll be out tomorrow, and I'll be out over the weekend. So to everyone out in the tournament, please be careful. Have fun. I hope you catch the fish of a lifetime out here at Lake Fork. If you're looking for a guide to FISHREP out here at Lake Fork, my name is Greg Hill. I'm at Forward Operating Base Lake Fork. You can go to my website, my YouTube, my Instagram, send me a message, and let's set up a time to go fishing out here. It's a great time to go fishing out here at Lake Fork. But you guys have a great night.